Welcome to Five Sharp Weekly. We discuss the big difference between Gonzalo Pineda and his counterpart, Wolford Nancy, review the Columbus Crew match, and get into your burning questions from the mailbag. All that and more coming up. Before we get into it, become part of the notification squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button on YouTube. Welcome to the show, Five Sharp fam. I'm AJ, and this is Michael. And yes, this week, match day one was not spectacular. It was a 1-0 loss to the Columbus Crew. But before we review that match and get into the news, let's give some shout outs to our Patreon members, and most notably Gavin, Jordan, Niall, Andrew, and Chris. Much love to you guys. And yes, definitely get in on the ground floor on that. We have some very fun things coming up, so make sure to join us on our Patreon, patreon.com/ATLUTDfantv. But guys, yes, match day one. You know, that first half. Let's dig in. You know, let's open this wound, because that was not a half of football that we really want to write home about, but we need to discuss it. It is not good. It is another instance of basically where we went to Columbus, essentially 3 of our last 4 matches we've lost. And obviously they were all against Columbus, and it's not a good record, but they're the champs for a reason. But it is also, we look out of our depths, like it's we had one shot, and then it wasn't on goal, and it was basically one-way traffic for most of it. We looked kind of bereft of any cohesion. There's a lot of disjointedness, but I think the defense was able to hold strong for a good bit of it to kind of mitigate any of those errors that did happen. But they were battering us. Let's just be real. And they were able to find some pockets of space over the top with their big switches. We tried to play a little mid block against them, and they were punishing us. Either on the right wing or the left wing. And I mean, on their goal, it essentially is where, at right back, they were able to kind of overload it, where Brooks Lennon, they kind of targeted that side. They knew that, Lennon might be a player that wants to go forward a bit, and when he does, they're going to hit it fast. They're going to, play a lot of players along that side, and definitely for that goal, it was just something that, what else can we do? We, this is our mostly pretty much strongest 11, I would say, getting into that starting 11. Almada did get the start. He obviously had not pretty much at all in the preseason played with the rest of the team. But as well, Derek Williams was in for, basically, I think he's maybe won that spot against Luis Abraham, at least for the moment. But, other than that, it's the first choice 11. And, if it's like that, it's the first match of the season, it's on the road. I mean, you can put all those excuses in there, but, I mean, ultimately, your first 11 cannot look that bereft of ideas. And, I think it's full credit to Columbus Crew for that, but it is also, they tore us apart. And, their goal pretty much stretched us to where, no one's at the back post. And Cucho Hernandez, he was able to find the right pocket of space. And, he basically had an open net. I mean, he's not going to miss. Like, that's the player that you don't leave open. But, before we dig into really even more minutia of this, what were your, kind of overarching thoughts, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, this is something we've seen before. but this is not as bad as we've seen before. I think that's important. I think that we need to look at this in terms of, golf. We're getting closer to the hole for every swing. I think we're getting better. Tap it in. This is indicative of that. So, I mean, you have every game we've played against them in recent memory, we've had multiple goal against us, and our differentials have been horrific.
On the road, anyway. Yeah. I mean, at home, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah, story. Exactly. That's what I mean. Exactly. And so this game marks a significant improvement. Yet it's still a loss, but looking at how we performed, I mean, we'll get to the second half where we were threatening and dangerous. But this game could have been spun on its head if we got lucky, had some puck luck, and, ball fell right for, there was a couple of times where the ball fell and it was just like a little bit outside of Giakoumakis' ability to tap it in, or just fell to the left when it should fall to the right, or something like this. We were very close in and that's all it took this game, was one little thing like that to fall our way. And this game could have been tied and everyone would have been talking, holy crap, Atlanta United tied the champs in their home. Let's not forget, no one beats Columbus in Columbus. They've lost once in the last since 2022 or some nonsense like that. They don't lose at home. So that was never gonna be what we did, at least at this early in the season with this team. I think it's a possibility we could beat them later in the season if we were to be playing them away, which I don't think we are. Maybe it happens in the playoffs or something again, but I think in the future we might have a chance of beating them if we continue to develop and we continue to show progress. I think the potential is there for this team. I don't think this loss is indicative of anything really that we need to be super worried about. I mean, there's a couple of things that we can talk about in terms of minutia that we can get into, but overall, I think this team will grow with time. Some of the issues that we saw will be covered up and will be, built over or on top of, and we'll be able to get by them. You won't see them as much. And so I think, like I said, it's not something to, scream about or hem and haw about right now. It's the first game, not that big of a deal. We'll get better. Columbus is probably going to get better too, but not that much. I mean, I think they're pretty consistent with what they offer. And if we were able to almost give them a black eye, I mean, we were close. I mean, yeah, it could have been, 3-0 Columbus as well if we weren't, if we weren't playing pretty good defense, which we were, which is also another positive indicator. Things could have been bad, but I think this is as good of a loss as you could possibly get playing away in your first match against the reigning champions.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely that second half, which we'll get to, was definitely much more encouraging. I think we probably, if all things equal to a degree, I think we probably won that second half a little bit. But I think this is telling from Gonzalo Pineda, though. He said after in the post-match press conference that, quote, "The pressing moments were very good. We were pressing actually pretty well against Columbus, but after we gained the ball, we were not connecting the passes. We were lacking a little bit just either connecting forward or securing the possession for a bit longer." And I think that is pretty much indicative of a lot of what's happening. But there's more to it than that. But I think to dig into what he says here is that, for Almada not really having trained with Bartosz Slisz, pretty much not having played with the team in essentially 2 months, there's going to be some kind of bedding in period again to get back acclimated with his teammates, to know where, they're going to be. And, possibly there has been new schemes. Hopefully I would really, really hope that Pineda has introduced new things in this preseason. But, ultimately we looked like a midfield that hadn't played together. And that's the issue, is that, if your lines aren't connecting, well, then, yeah, you're not going to really create too much unless you just have these game breakers that are able to be found in space. And, I mean, Columbus, they're wise to all that. They know how to close down the space. They know how to make sure that we don't have time with the ball to get off a good chance. And that's really kind of the difference is against lesser teams. Yeah, we may be able to punish them through individual quality, but with this, yeah, the task is tall. And I think the encouraging thing, yes, is that second half. And we definitely come out of the second half, or out in halftime, into the second half with, I think, a lot more gusto. I think with a little bit more of an onus and maybe motivation, maybe the company of the manager, of the head coach. I don't know if what his speech would have been if it were. I don't know if he would have kind of been encouraging, kind of been disparaging. I would probably think he's maybe more on the encouraging side for match day 1. So that's, it's maybe to the effect of, well, we can't play a worse half than that. I mean, without, I guess, shipping in 2 or 3 or 4 goals, I think attack-wise, we couldn't play any worse. But I think it's that, in terms of kind of the moments where we had to sweat a little bit more. I mean, Stian Gregerson, he unfortunately gave away a penalty. And, I mean, what was your thought on the penalty? Do you think it was a stonewall penalty or a little iffy? Or what'd you think?
I mean, he came right through the guy's back, made no play on the ball, and it was in the box. So I think that's a penalty, yeah.
Yeah. I think, it's pretty straightforward as it gets, which, I mean, Gregerson...
It's a tactical foul. I mean, he knew that if he didn't do that, that's probably going in the net. So, I mean, you might as well take your chances with penalty at that point.
Right, but, I'm not so sure he knows Brad Guzan's penalty saving record, which ain't great. Spoiler alert, if you haven't been paying attention for the last 7-8 years. And, he's never saved a penalty. And even in the penalty shootouts that we've had. And so, yeah, it was pretty much like, okay, we're all resigned to 2-0 because Cucho Hernandez, surely, not going to miss, right? Not going to miss. It's Cucho Hernandez. Yeah, I mean, somehow it's a fairly savable penalty kick where it's a good level. It's not too far to his right, and it's not hit all that hard. And I don't know what happened, but Brad Guzan, that's he lucked out, and he was pumped. I mean, I think we were all shocked, but definitely it kept us in the match, and I think with that, I think there are some. There's some talk because, the one talking point we haven't talked about yet is that Brad Guzan started this match, and some people would have thought maybe, Josh Cohen maybe should have started this match to kind of be that player that can actually stop some of the shots that it's going to be really, really tough to save because, Brad Guzan at this point isn't really known for being able to shot stop, really, essentially. His shot stopping ability has waned a lot. And I mean, though the haters, the doubters, I think it's another match that Brad Guzan can kind of put in his pocket that, the goal is not on him, that first goal, and he made a penalty save. I mean, he largely kept us in the game. And
Brad's lucky that Columbus wasn't able to hit their long-range power shots this game, unlike last game.
Exactly. That's one big thing for sure. He did have a moment of madness that, if it was not for the offside, him on rushing,
Yes.
coming out of the box, whew, it was dicey. He very much handballed that, and but he was able to head it out quickly for the first part of the save, but he did not backpedal
Head it
quickly
out
enough.
right to a player who could then do something with it. So, not the best.
Yeah, and on another day, if the player wasn't offside in the build-up, we would have been down a keeper, and we would have seen Josh Cohen in the first match then, and that's not particularly something that I would have necessarily put on the bingo card, nor have wanted to see. That's
because it's like not a keeper winning the position; it's a keeper losing the position.
Yeah, exactly, and then he would have been, definitely not playing the next match and all that. So definitely, some fortuitous things happened. I think Brad Guzan maybe he prayed to the soccer gods this before this match, and made sure that luck was on his side, because he definitely had those moments. But
He had a good save in the first period too. That was just from the run of play. That was very good.
Yeah, agreed. And those of you watching the video, you're watching me trying to fix my the flag behind me because it's falling down. But anyway, in this second half as well, I think we have some kind of more promising chances. Obviously, we weren't really able to put anything away. That's kind of the crux of it, is that the combination of Almada and Giacomakis, they were combining. Giacomakis was able to fire a shot, but it went high on one of the chances.
There were two chances that should have gone in. There was one where it came, Saba to Yako in the box. Should have just been a tap in. That should have gone in. When GG is more sharp, he doesn't have the rust of the offseason. I think that he scores that like 9 times out of 10. So I think that's that'll come again. Like I said in the kind of my preamble in the beginning, these types of things will be shaken off, and those will come. So and then the Thiago Almada shot that the goalie just barely parried off. That could have been in as well later in the season. So I know we don't think of it like that, because Thiago doesn't need a preseason to get going. He's been scoring bangers internationally before this, and last year's season opener, he scored 2 of them. So it is not unlikely to think that, he can pull this out. However, it just wasn't the case today.
Right. And I think that's one of the questions that we have to ask of our preseason, is that, was it a failure or was it a success?
So I was actually thinking about this. If you they said that they played their games away, in order to simulate playing away, right? To get that monkey off their back. I just thought that was weird to say, because we never play preseason home games anyway. Like the years before, we went to Mexico. That's as away as you can get, basically. Right. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what you mean that you're well, Birmingham's we're practicing for being away. What? I thought that was a little weird.
Right. And something we haven't talked about as well is that it was snowing before this match. Yes, the pitch itself, I think they were able to. The grounds crew able to sweep that all away, slash the actual pitch probably has a little bit of the kind of melting ability that some of the modern stadiums have. And that could have been a factor in terms of going into the match, thinking about, something different that we really obviously did not really encounter in the preseason. But I think, again, it's yes, Columbus, they maybe are a little bit more accustomed to this type of weather, but I think it's still excuses. There's, I think if you look at it on a whole, the preseason is a failure if your first match that's away and you don't really excise any of the demons from last season, at least yet. Yes, again, it's one match, but I mean, yeah, it's did we really see anything too much different? It's arguable.
I don't think that we've seen much different. Because I don't think it's hard. I mean, nothing gets you ready for a game except for a game, really, honestly. And unfortunately, we don't play a lot of MLS teams in preseason, which I think is a mistake. So, you know.
The one that we did play was CF Montreal, who, no one's expecting them to pull up trees this season, and
right, and that wasn't even like a legitimate, like, you know, we didn't play it like it's a game, like.
Right. And the Sporting KC
was, you know,
as well. It's like, while probably you would bet that they're gonna probably be a better team this season than last season. I mean, the scoreline dictates something else. Obviously, you know, that was more for match fitness, but
again, not a game. So it's just like, I guess if you want to get ready to play soccer, you should probably play soccer before, you know. But they do other things. It is what they do. They have sports science and it tells them to do other things, and that's fine. So, but when you don't win, you have to ask the questions.
You do, exactly. And it's that, you know, Giacomakis, he did mention in this offseason that, you know, you want to be able to have a good preseason together so that you have some acclimation and you're ready for the season from match day one. And I think that's what I think. You know, there's a lot of other teams around the globe that's, you know, okay, I think back then used to be where players would play themselves into shape. That is just no longer the case anymore, obviously. But like most every player now has to be pretty much fit the entire year, and it's you know, for this, it's one of these things though that's, you know, I don't think we were match sharp, and you know, I think it's obviously, you know, some circumstantial things with Almada being away, with Giacomakis, he's, you know, kind of in and out in preseason, and I mean, for which reasons we're not really sure, but you know, it didn't really help. I mean, I think if pretty much Giacomakis played only half the preseason matches, how is he supposed to be sharp? So it's it's circumstantial, but it's also, I think it's looked upon. You have to ask these questions. Was it a
Jaco
failure?
keeps getting injured, so what are you gonna do?
So
but anyway, so like before we get into the Nancy comparison, I want to kind of conclude by like, I did just criticize Pineda and the club about their preseason and how they entered this match and what the results were. However, there's a very real possibility that any team with any level, considering even the highest level of preparation, like this team is operating at their optimal 100%. There's a very realistic possibility that any team operating 100% would have still lost against Columbus at home. You know, no matter what. So like, I that's why I kept saying I hate that we're playing Columbus in the first match, because why don't, like, you know, you see teams like Cincinnati playing like Toronto and Philadelphia playing some other like low team or whatever, like, and I'm like, why can't we get a low team to start out with, like, so they can build their confidence and everything. Like like you could say, like, we'd be having a different conversation. The other conversation would be something like, we won, but we didn't dominate. We had some issues that we will we'll fix and work on throughout the season, and then we'll get there, right? My whole thing is like, well, that's 3 points. Like, we could have, while in our weakened state, gotten 3 points against a weaker team, and then slowly grown into match fitness or what have you, like into our sharpness. And then once we run into Columbus away, there's a chance we actually beat them. But Nope, we get them right off the bat, which I
Well,
thought was really obnoxious.
right. Well, I mean, the scheduling gods didn't smile upon us, obviously, and I think the main thing probably is that the scheduling gods wanted some good eyeballs for kind of the start of kind of MLS Saturday, and I think with that,
You gave Miami RSL. You
right,
gave Cincinnati Toronto. Like,
right.
what are these mismatches? And then you give us, like, you give, I don't know. It was just such a, like, all these other things seemed like mismatches, and ours was like, blow for blow even. And I'm like, why? Why are you gonna give us a black eye right in the beginning? But
Yeah, and to be fair, most of our games that we've started off a season with, we haven't won. I think we've won maybe, I think two, maybe or three, and those years were pretty dire, which I don't think is a correlative, but it is worrying. No, not really. I mean, I think if we can mitigate the issues that we see for the rest of the season, I think if we can learn from that, then great. But if not, you better be sure that we're gonna have something to say about it. And yeah, it's that's what I think is probably the hope, is that we are learning from these mistakes that we are making. And so far, sometimes though, it doesn't really feel like that. So it is
talking about some mistakes. Let's talk about the comparison between Pineda and Nancy's style.
well. Yeah, that's part of the mailbag, so I'm happy you talked about that. We will talk about that in the mailbag. So, but
Right.
yeah. So anyway, let's wrap a bow on this match though, and yeah, basically Pineda, he said it's not easy to play the champion, the first team of the season, and they did a great job. His players adjusted very well. I like what I see in the locker room, the belief they have in themselves. We lost today. We cannot change that, but I think especially in the second half, performance is encouraging. We can build something out of that. I think I can imagine what the post-match speech and talk was from Pineda. It's probably something similar, and that's yeah, it's something to build on. It's as tough of an assignment as it is, but I think the numbers, at least in the final, it reads a little bit better than maybe what what we saw in the first half, at least anyway. Because while Columbus, they had 16 shots to our 6, their shots on target were only 3, ours were 3, and possession-wise is pretty much a coin flip. And we actually had a better passing accuracy. So all those things, are fine. The XG, though, 2.2 for Columbus Crew. Ours, 0.7. And that's the issue, is that we're not getting clear enough chances. And, it's just something that expected goals, while it's a maybe imperfect stat, it still can tell a pretty good tale that, yeah, it probably should have been. Probably should have been at least a 2-0, 2-1 scoreline that we kind of lucked out a little bit. So, but yeah. So unfortunately, United only play next Saturday on March 9th, and so there's a bye week. But that doesn't mean there isn't stuff to talk about, which we will get into in the news. And yeah, so in the news. At least Atlanta related and adjacent related. February 26th kicked off the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup site inspection tour. And yeah, basically they're excited to showcase their vision. U.S. Soccer tweeted, and how the U.S. and Mexico can bring the tournament to new heights. And it's definitely exciting. Yeah, FIFA Women's World Cup, being at the Benz. Definitely awesome. As well, Copa America, those tickets went out for sale, and that should be very exciting for soccer fans in America as well. But But yeah, moving on from that. So the replacement refs that pretty much were refereeing our match this, for match day 1, they were apparently, some had experiences in USL, in the MLS NP. Some were from college games, and they're jumping directly to the top flight. Did you feel like with these kind of replacement refs, these, if you will, it's not the best term for them, but it is kind of what they are, unfortunately, these scabs, are they, did you feel like there was a difference in this match, or, yeah, I mean, do you feel like it was justly called?
Yeah, for our match, I thought it was fine. Some other matches that I watched, I thought was a little goofy, but
Yep.
for our match, I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I think you may be referring to the Busquets, double, or the second yellow for the LA Galaxy player. That's, what? You're just you're getting conned by a world beater, to be fair, but I mean that's as egregious as a call as they come, and it definitely affected the game. Inter Miami probably shouldn't have gotten a point, but that's neither here nor there. So, but anyway, in terms of the labor negotiations between Pro and PSRA, they will apparently resume on the day that we're recording this, February 28th. That's according to Jeff Carlisle. And the session will include a mediator from the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service. So, hopefully they can figure that out, because, while that happened, that bad second yellow happened in LA or Carson City, I wouldn't want that to happen to us. So, we need to make sure that the actual pro referees are reffing our matches, please. Moving on from that, Doug Roberson, he tweeted out that the turf has started to be put back down in the bends. So that's definitely a good thing. We'll see. Kind of. I think the turf that we have is definitely, of course, been mentioned by Miles Robinson as maybe a factor in his decision to leave. But, it still is something that's, it's probably still the highest level of turf that you can get out there. And, I think, it being put in, definitely necessary for sure. But, moving on from that, Atlanta United, they announced the club roster ahead of the season. A couple of very interesting things in there, including that Stian Gregerson will occupy a DP spot. Saba actually was bought down, and essentially the 8 international roster spots as well. I think it's probably the suspects that you would expect, the usual suspects: Abram, Yakumakis, Gregerson, Lapsanidze, Boyamba, Silva, Schließ, and Tiare. But the fact is, as well as the club only has 3 active roster spots, 2 on its senior roster and 1 on its supplemental roster. And Roberson, he also tweeted out that LA United doesn't have allocation money right now to buy down Stian Gregerson and open up a DP spot. So only way to open up a DP slot right now is to sell a DP, which obviously will not be happening. So
it's interesting. I mean, you have a strategy that we kind of never done before. Instead of having 3 high paid full-fledged DPs, you have kind of 2 DPs, and then you have 2 full-fledged DPs, and then a third one that's like maybe not so much, and then you have 2 more. Yeah, and then you have two more players that are also like high-level TAM players that you can kind of spread it around a little bit more with, which is interesting. So it's like Garth called them DP lights.
Yep.
And so, it's interesting to, instead of have like 3 big guys, you have 2 big guys, 1 medium, and then like 3 smaller versions of that running around. And you have a loop. Yeah. I try to differentiate between these like 3 made up levels of fake money stuff. But so like you have more like kind of skillful coverage over the entire field versus have front loading it all on the top, like which most teams do, unless you're Nashville. So I guess we kind of pulled the Nashville a little bit with having a DP defender. So that's interesting.
Indeed, and especially when there are some. It's that, I mean, the conversation is gonna steer towards that. Yeah, Miles Robinson. He was offered something close to this, but ultimately, he viewed it as, yes, he needed to play on grass probably, and maybe go for a shorter contract so he can maybe find his way to Europe from there, have a healthy, better season than last season. But ultimately it conjures up the conversation of, okay, well, Gregerson, he will always be compared pretty much to Robinson in that sense, and will he outproduce him? And giving away a penalty on the first match day, well, that aside, I think he actually had a pretty good match. And
I don't even think that was his fault. I think that the play and everything had broken down before Stian was even involved, and he had to make a play like that to salvage something.
Right. So, but we'll see. Hopefully there are no more penalties that he will be giving up this season. But as well, another roster move was that Centennial. He is the only LA United player who will go on a season-long loan to LA United 2. And so, there's 18 of 20 senior slots used, like mentioned before. And, there's just not another... there's not cap space to sign another starting caliber player. So, And it'll be difficult because we have a lot of players that get called into national teams. And, we don't have the cover. It's just that's what MLS is. That's the rant from last episode. Pretty much is or 2 episodes ago now, I guess. Is the things that we're not as a league working on to make sure that we don't have these issues, because while we're not a top 5 league around the world, we still have a lot of players called into national teams that pretty much, it's a punishment almost. Like we played a large part of last summer without all 3 of our DPs, if any, for some of the matches. Like that's ridiculous in a kind of roster sense. So, and I have a little bit of a frog in my throat, so bear with me, guys.
Do you go out and find players that are like just as good as Saba, Zonde, and stuff like that, like Zonde essentially, because he's Portuguese and will never play for the Portuguese national team anymore. So, like, do you go out and specifically find players who won't be called up?
Right.
You get that advantage. Is that a calculus? Because those players exist. They're out there, but.
And that's the thing. It's like, you get players like Darlington Nagby who don't want to be on the national team. And, that really helps Columbus. Like, that, no doubt, absolutely is a plus, because would he start for the U.S. men's national team? Hell yeah, he would. He would be arguably their best player. I mean, it's, you could maybe say, maybe one of the forwards or whichever, Pulisic as well, and, Ferreira, maybe a shout or whatever. But I think, locking down that midfield, he would have helped in a lot of the cycles that we had. But, that's not the case. But, so as well, Carlos Bocanegra, he did mention that in the press conferences before the season opener that the club might be looking to bring in a third striker. He said that's a possibility, not a rush on that. And he also hinted that the club could be in a market for a left-footed left back as well. So definitely interesting. I think those were, at least for me, I
Definitely
think.
need those.
Yeah,
Mr.
exactly.
Concussion prone is worrying me. So, I hope he recovers and stops getting concussions.
Right. Which, concussions are really difficult to kind of recover from fully. And, but, hopefully that is the case, that, yes, he can recover quickly. Moving on from that, Jeff Carlisle of ESPN, he also he reported that Atlanta United will reportedly participate in the U.S. Open Cup, which, is great news for some people. Some people maybe couldn't care less. But as of right now, the top 7 Supporters Shield finishers not in the CONCACAF Champions Cup will enter their first teams, plus Houston as defending champs for a total of 8 MLS first teams. Still not a quote-unquote done deal, but basically means that Seattle, LAFC, Houston, Atlanta, RSL, Dallas, Kansas City, and San Jose will be in. And there's not much data on how many MLS Pro or Next Pro teams will be entered as well. But what's your take on, we're back playing in the U.S. Open Cup?
I mean, it's fine. I don't really mind us playing in that competition. I kind of like it when we do well. It just kind of sucks that we haven't done well in a while. So hopefully we can dodge an embarrassment unlike last year. But it's interesting that it's Atlanta versus the entire Western Conference, basically, because that's just how stacked the Eastern Conference is. Yep. They're like all in the CONCACAF Champions League.
Yep, and that's kind of the sad thing, and also the but that's why you play it. That's why you play the U.S. Open Cup, so that if you win it, you can get into the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So, hopefully, maybe we can win it for the second time. I think of the teams that are in it, I would say we're probably one of the favorites. So we should make sure that we put in our best players for these matches, because we want to be in that Champions Cup. But moving on from that, there is some chatter. Giacomakis, he did mention that his goal for this season is Golden Boot. A lot of pundits and other people around the league have maybe suggested that, he's probably a favorite for it. And I think his hope for that, I think, is founded. I think he's probably one of the most clinical finishers in the league, so hopefully he can do that. Moving on from that, Brooks Lennon, he made his 200th appearance in the MLS regular season on Saturday. And he's played 114 matches with LA United. Of course, he used to be with Real Salt Lake as well. But it's crazy. It's crazy that he's played actually that many matches. It's wild. I remember when he first signed for us. So kind of wild. But and he ranks 4th most in matches played for LA United. Just behind Joseph Martinez, Jeff Laronowitz, Brad Guzan. Miles Robinson has also played 100 regular season matches or more with the club. But moving on from that, Jaden Hibbert of LA United 2, he was named to the Jamaican national team squad for March 1st and March 3rd with in Trinidad and Tobago. And last bit of news is that Ozzy Alonso, he has signed a 1-day contract to retire as a sounder. And best of luck to him in retirements. He maybe had a kind of very injury-marred time and spell with us, but definitely I think he still is a legend in MLS, and much due respect for, that type of player. And, definitely, like I said, good luck in retirement. But yeah, so that does it for the news. That gets us into the mailbag, and you guys send in these questions through either Discord or IG Story. Please continue to do so, and we might answer your question in the future. But yeah, we'll give priority to Patreon members. And Gavin, he asks, to learn from the opening Columbus match, could we possibly go on an unbeaten streak, especially with our next 2 matches at home?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're gonna a little preview for our next week's episode when we preview the match against New England. I think we're gonna tear them to pieces. Honestly, I think that's gonna be an exciting match. I might be going to it. We'll see. And if we do, that's gonna be more exciting. So yeah, I'm really pumped for that game. I think we are going to rip them to shreds.
Hopefully so. I mean, obviously they have a new coach. It's, that first showing for them wasn't spectacular, but Carl's heel is a thorn in our side, and if you give him time and space, which, in the first match for the Revs, he got time and space, and he put in probably the goal of the week. I mean, just nasty, just a ridiculous goal that, I think very few players in this league can score, and that's him. And so yeah, it will still be tough. It's not I think it's not a just gimme these next 2 matches, but yeah, I think we could go on an unbeaten streak for at least 2 matches. We'll see. But yeah, it fares well because the Revs, I think, can be got, and then as well, at least the Fortress, that is the Benz. Usually, we should be okay. But yeah, moving on. Next question comes from Josh Cohen fan. How many games should we win at home? Draws not counted. That's following up to Gavin's question there.
More than we had last year. That's what I'll say. I want. I don't know the exact math of it, but I would say I don't know, maybe I'd say 3 or 4 or something like that, because I don't know how many we lost last year at home. But I know there were some times where I was like, that should not have been a draw. That should have not have been a loss. We should have had that win. Those types of games, I'm a little more confident this year that we can turn those, 50-50, could have gone this way, could have gone that way types of games in our favor. So I think those games will fall as wins this year, and I think that's maybe around 3, possibly more.
Yeah, so at home last season, we were 10-4-3. So we had a good number of actual wins at home, but of course, it was our dismal away record that didn't really help. But
we could easily turn 3 of those draws into wins, I think.
Yeah, so it I think maybe not that many losses. I think that's the goal, is make sure that we don't lose at home. That should be the absolute goal. But next question comes from 11OMR. When are we signing the 3rd striker, or are we going to take a gamble on Ashton Gordon when Giacomakis has to miss a game due to yellows and TRA is out due to concussion protocol? I mean, that's a good question.
It may be. But we're assuming Tiare will be good to go by the time Giacomakis has to go anywhere. So I think that's the plan. I foresee Garth making signings in the summer window. I don't foresee him making them hastily now or in the near future, unless something calamitous happens. So let's cross our fingers and hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think it's Ashton Gordon might get a look. I highly doubt it though, because we would really have to be in a pinch, I feel like. I think some other players might get a look before he does. Those on the first team, because I don't think we want to use up those those. Basically you have the
Right.
you have to bring
The
bring them
temporary
up.
contracts. Though.
Exactly, the temporary contracts, and I think those other players that might be. I mean, I would probably think it's Sava. I think it's could be also maybe a Nick Firmino, kind of as a false nine, or if Thiago Almada is playing, I think he would be the false nine. So it could be that, which I think would be very interesting to see how we would play and stretch teams and pull their center backs out of position. I think something that we should maybe look into and see how we might be able to play. But now it gets to Ethan Atlanta United 17's question. What is the difference between Pineda's and Wilfred Nancy's game philosophy strategy? Philosophy/strategy. From what I see and hear, it's described as almost identical no matter what, play, attack, and possession-based football. If there really isn't much difference between the two coaches, would that mean the discrepancy is due to players' execution of the game plan? And I think, you're right in some degrees there, Ethan, is that, there is some similarities, of course, with all the coaches that are trying to play as protagonists in football, where they are trying to dictate what's happening and they're trying to use the ball versus playing off the ball more or less, and maybe letting the other team have the ball. And so the outward strategy is similar, obviously, but the execution, whether it's with players, whether it's with the coaching and coaching staff, I think there's differences in quality, and I think that's the difference. Is that Pineda, he's the type of coach that he still I think he still has some room for growth to be able to, I think, impact a team in the way that a Wilfred Nancy can, because Wilfred Nancy obviously has the championship pedigree. He's shown that he can actually coach them to a cup, and with that, I think it's because of certain maybe not obvious things that you can see, but I think something telling is that something Nancy said to the press previously, that quote, it's kind of in terms of characterizing kind of what he's heard from many of his peers over the years. He's saying, they say, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that, don't stop the ball, play quick. Center backs, you have to play 2 touches all the time. Now, first touch away, don't stop the ball, or don't play back to the keeper, or don't play the ball twice back in a row because it slows down the play. Don't make lateral passes. I think it's very, very telling that
Don't tell Rosetto about that.
Yeah, and I think we obviously didn't have the players maybe to actually execute some of the things that we want to do. I think a major thing is like what you see the best teams around the world is that they can switch up their play and not just be a team that builds out from the back, but they can also go long and either hit their target, it being the center forward or another player that's is good at headers, but those goalkeepers or center backs, whether they can actually either hit the long ball or hit the switches that are necessary, which Wilfred Nancy, he had the players / he had the wherewithal to be able to have those players positionally be in the right spot to punish us. We essentially, in that match against them, they were able to find that ball in behind regularly, and
they were very good at switching. They were very good.
Exactly, and that's how you beat mid blocks. That's how you, in terms of dictate where the ball is going to be and the pattern of play. That's how you do it, and positionally as well. Like, I don't think our players are maybe quite there yet in terms of being able to execute some of the things. Maybe either it's the football IQ or maybe it's talent as well, because we've not had a goalkeeper that can place the ball onto the top of a player's head or to their feet on a regular basis. That just doesn't exist in this league, because if they did, they wouldn't be playing in this league. But Michael, yeah, you have some thoughts on this?
Yeah, everything you said sounds good. There's one thing I feel like this is a wrinkle in the equation, in that, we're seeing in Atlanta United right now, so you asked what the discrepancy between these two teams are if everything else seems equal, right? It seems like, well, it has to be the players. I mean, I think that's partially right. I think it's partially in that we don't know how Atlanta United is going to play at their full potential yet. I think when we get to that full potential, we will be more on a similar level like Columbus. And I think you'll see similar results. So, give it some time. I under the impression that we'll start to look and play and be able, and there won't be as much of a difference like it was with this first game that we saw. So if we run into them again later in the season, kind of like how I said, earlier in the episode, if we ran into them later in the season once we had developed a little bit more, I think you would see a far more even game, if not us winning. So that to me could also be a reason for the discrepancy, because I do agree that I think they do employ similar tactical philosophies. So yeah, it's exciting and good. It's interesting matchup to watch two teams that play like this play each other. So that's even though we lost, it was an entertaining game.
Right, and I think that's why you see that it was a lot tighter of a game away this time. Is that the level of players is better.
Right.
The time that they've had together is a little bit more, because yes, and to Michael's point, is that the season that Wilfred Nancy had to pretty much acclimate all the players to each other, sans maybe a couple of players that essentially did come in later during the secondary transfer window. Yeah, like there is a difference there, but as well, we had mostly a lot of the players sans some core. I think that definitely changed our ability, changed our chemistry, and probably for the better. And so yeah, I think you have players that can execute a little bit better of what Pineda is trying to do, but there still is, I think, an ability from the coach to get these players to be in the right spot or not, so that we can play out of some of the presses that we do see, and the types of defenses that we do see. I don't think that we're seeing that quite yet from Pineda. I think that's the issue, is that these players maybe aren't being coached to the utmost degree that's they can be, to adjust in game, because ultimately they need to be coached up to the point in game that they can make decisions for themselves and adjust without Pineda having to make massive adjustments in the match. And while he still needs to, he absolutely can impact these matches from the sideline. It's still, that first half is that's the issue, is that we couldn't adjust, and that's why it was one-way traffic. We basically couldn't build out from the back, and I think that's what you saw. That's the difference.
We definitely tried. We'd pass it around in the back, and then we would just hoof it after we figured out that whenever we start passing around in the back, Columbus, that was their, pressing trigger, and then we just, had to either we coughed it up or we just blasted it out of there. It's for a 50-50 ball, so it was. I don't know if you were kind of hinting at like if we develop a little bit more, we can be able to be better at handling high presses from teams. I'm not sure we're ever going to get to a point where we're going to comfortably handle high pressing teams, but I think that
now with the talent at our disposal, I think that's the issue. But
yes, so don't expect that to ever be the case. I think at least at this season, I think we're gonna have to just outscore high pressing teams. I think they'll get one or two past us because that's just the way it kind of works with our team. So
it's why teams like New York Red Bulls have always given us fits, because we don't have the players to play out of it. We just don't. And you have Tata Martino, who's a world-class coach, but limited players. So, but moving on from that, Bruno C, World Cup champ 2022. He asks, if we lose against Columbus and Guzan starts, do we bench him or give him another game? Which, okay, it happened. So I think that's the that's the question: is do we give him another game? I think he probably earned through his play probably another match. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he has, but just like kind of how I said on a previous episode, I don't think it matters that much. Again, in this case, I don't think it mattered that much in the last game either. I think Columbus was going to win that game regardless. I don't think it was going to come down to goaltending, and I don't think our win against New England will come down to goaltending either. So I don't think it matters so much in the next game.
Yeah. All right. So next question comes from IG Story and Barton Ethan. Barton.Ethan asks, who is the signing you are most excited to watch this season?
I think I've answered this before, and I'll keep answering it this way because I'm excited to watch Sleece play. The guy is supposed to be the guy who turns the team into a more attack-minded, building out the back kind of team. And I'm excited to see him play. It's because I know what I'm gonna get from the rest of the team by now, and he's the only one who's kind of the wild card, but he's billed as a savior of sorts. So I'm really excited to watch him. So he's got my eye quite often when I'm watching.
Yeah, agreed. I think he's the player that all things kind of considered, Stan Gregerson, Miles Robinson, fairly equal on kind of level of play. It's the Schleich signing that I think should bring us over the top if all goes well. So, and with that, B. Riss Alvarado asks, is Schleich living up to the hype? Which is way too early to ask that question, but...
Yeah, not yet. Give him time. Like I said, it kind of about the team as a whole. We need to give them a little bit of time. I think he, as I would have expected, is he showed signs of promise. He showed signs of potential of what he can do and what he could do. So we'll see how he develops. I just hope he's not like an emotionally fragile player. We've had quite a few of those in the past, and results can kind of get him because what worries me is this guy just win. He was on the best team in Poland, and they just kind of dominate every year. And so he's used to just winning all the time. What happens when you're in a situation where you have a stretch of losses or things are not going well? How does he handle that? How does he perform now? So hopefully he can keep things up. I think because of the chemistry of the team, the camaraderie that they've displayed so far, all these good time stories from them, I think that hopefully even if he does get down or if he is a little emotionally fragile, they can bring him up, and I think he'll be fine. I hope this team is mentally strong this season.
Yeah. And I think on the flip side of that too, I think he brings that winning pedigree, and so it is something that maybe he brings to the locker room where he brings up other players when we're in a losing streak or something.
God, I hope so.
Yeah, and so he makes sure that our mentality is of a winning one and not of a team that allows himself to get on a losing streak. But let's see. DZ Mahevovich. Well, I'm butchering that, but what, if any, parts are we missing from the team at the moment?
I don't know if we're this starting 11 is really good. I don't know if we're missing too much. What we're missing is in the depth area. So that is, and you have, like we mentioned a little bit before, with the third striker option and the left back option. Those are going to be your prime spots to reinforce, and a little bit in the midfield, but that's a further priority down the line. So yeah, I think that's where I don't know if we really need to upgrade anywhere else for the most part. I say that tentatively. I mean, like, perhaps like Williams might be your lowest kind of guy, but he's been doing well, so I don't see any reason. And it brings up a bigger point that I feel like we're going to be talking about a lot, is what the hell is going on for Braum?
And I think that's something, maybe he just didn't have a good preseason, and maybe he's got to play his way back into a starting spot.
Those USL teams, man, he just can't handle them.
Yeah, exactly. And so maybe it's that, but because maybe it is, maybe he just gives them too much time and space. Who knows? But I think it's that. You're absolutely right with everything there. I think it actually should be midfield that we actually prioritize, because I don't think we can get away with just 4 guys in midfield. Like, it's not enough. It's just not enough of the duration of a season. We absolutely need to bring in a little bit more, I think, mobility as well. I mean, yes, Fortune is that guy to help with that, but say one of the players go down. Now we only have 3. Say one of them gets a card, or God forbid, a red card, and has to go out of the match. Now you have 2 going into any match, and what happens if it's not good. Like, I don't want to play out all these scenarios. It's like we need more in midfield. It's just point blank. So okay, let's see. Getting into another question, Taineko75. Any update on the pregame lot? He's talking about the tailgates. That's the great question. It's they keep changing it. They keep changing where it is. It used to be right next to, at least for the last few seasons, across the street from the stadium, next to the Hard Rock Cafe Hotel, but or the Reverb rather. And yep, now it's still being determined. I think there has been a spot maybe chosen, but it's not going to be the entire, all the supporters groups. And therein lies one of the issues. If you used to watch this channel, kind of earlier, the fan camps, we kind of relied on it being somewhere where everybody knew, like the Gulch. And that's not the case. It just keeps changing every single season. And it's difficult. It's difficult to not only find parking, it's difficult to kind of get to those areas. And post-match, pre-match, people have issues getting to the place where everybody is. I mean, as that show tune goes, I just want to be where the people are. So, but
so if you are either a member of a supporters group or want to join one, or are have questions like the one we just answered or attempted to answer, please join our Discord. We have people who are in high levels of some of these supporters groups who can give you information about this type of stuff They're a one keyboard stroke away from saying hi and going, hey, here's what is looking like for the game day coming up if you have any questions. So best place probably to get it outside of knowing someone who's literally a decision maker in those organizations personally. So that's just our plug. It's not just a fun community, it also has utility too. So
okay, yeah, love it. And last question comes from Terminus United 83. Do we have the CBs needed to run the offense we are trying to have? I'm not sure after week 1.
I mean, again, this is a lot of like kind of what the theme of the episode is we're not sure what the potential looks like yet of this team. So the answer is they could be, but obviously game 1 they were not. So if they develop to that point, great. But if not, then yeah, you're right to be worried because they just aren't good enough to do it. So I don't know. I think the balance of probability is that they probably will develop to be at least good enough to power the offense enough that we are a dangerous team. Can they be better? Of course. But will they be? Can we afford it? These are questions that are hard to wrestle with. So we'll see. I mean, it's a long season. Hopefully they get, their act together. They seem to have, potential. Stian and Williams played pretty well. I mean, we're talking about how they can help the offense, which is of course an essential duty of theirs, but their main thing is defense, and they did a damn good job for the most part. So I think we've upgraded, and I'm looking forward to conceding a heck of a lot less this season compared to last.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's like, defensively they look a lot stronger. It's how do they start the attack, and do they have the variance in their play? Are they positionally sound enough to be able to play out from the back, and can they spread the play well enough? Can they hit those long diagonals? Can they keep the defense on the other side on their toes? That's what will remain to be seen. That's why we're going to watch.
And most teams are not going to be Columbus good. So, they will be able to work some magic against other teams that we weren't able to see against Columbus, because Columbus's press is a heck of a thing to deal with. So,
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, guys, that is the mailbag. Thank you guys for sending those questions in. Make sure to send your questions in when we ask, and your question might be answered on the show. So, that is
great questions this time, guys. It was a lot of fun answering.
Exactly. Yeah, loved the questions this time, and looking forward to more of those in-depth ones, because that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we want to challenge AJ's big brain. So give us the most difficult questions you can think of.
I appreciate that. You're far too kind, Michael. But no, like I said in the Discord, no, I am not a big-brained person. I just I'm an avid learner.
You just play one on TV?
No, I'm just an avid learner, man. So anyway, guys, that is the mailbag and pretty much the entire episode except for the question of the day. And the question of the day is, how many games do you think Josh Cohen starts in 2024? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's double digits. I just don't know how many. Like, I'm not even sure I can answer that question.
Yeah,
but
leave your answers below.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Michael, give us your guess. I'm gonna give my guess. Let's
let's see. What do I want? I want to say minimum 20.
Yeah, so all competitions.
Oh, all competitions?
Yeah. But you're saying 20 in MLS. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, 20 in MLS.
So Guzan only starting like 14. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say probably like 18 in all competitions. I don't know. I think he's...
Yeah, all competitions is going to be less than 20, but I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, so... All right. Well, guys, let us know in the comments below. Looking forward to what you have to say. But Guys, that is the episode there and there. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe. For Michael, I'm AJ. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.